As a child, my favorite thing to do was read. When I read a book, I could disappear into that book's world, become that book's character. And quickly, that passion for reading became a passion for storytelling. I could invent entire universes completely different than mine. I could be anyone I wanted to be. My childhood was a happy one. I had two great parents who loved me and supported me in anything and everything I did. As I got older, something changed in me. I was no longer enjoying the things I used to do. I was no longer finding joy in spending time with people. There were days when I wanted to disappear, and more than anything, I was lonely. I was a smart kid with a great life and a bright future ahead of her, so it didn't make sense to me that I was feeling so hollow inside. So I did what I always did, and I told a story. I smiled through it, pretended I had it all together, not just for everyone else, but also for myself. I would tell myself every single day, you are not experiencing pain. Your life is perfect. But through middle school, it became harder to hide it. Through my journals, I started telling the truth. I started telling my real story. I can't recognize myself anymore. It's hard to believe that anybody cares sometimes. I feel trapped in a life that I don't want to live, and I scare myself when I try to come up with ways to get out. I guarded these journals with my life. There was no way I would ever admit that I wasn't okay. My sophomore year of high school, I attempted suicide and landed in the hospital. I was more shocked than anyone. It seemed to come out of nowhere, not because it wasn't building up, but because I had lied to myself for all those years that the pain wasn't there, that I was okay. Talking about it with anyone was never an option. No one in real life could possibly understand. After all, nobody really knew me. They only knew who I pretended to be. The hospital was the scariest place I had ever been. I was allowed to see my parents for an hour a day. I was put on all kinds of scary meds. I was around people who didn't want to get better, and neither did I. All I could think was, get out. So I made up another story, one where I learned my lesson and I could leave the hospital, and I smiled and I lied my way out of there. But less than 2 months later, I ended up in the hospital again. This time, when I asked to be let out, the doctor said no. I can't let you out until you come to terms with what is happening, until you realize that this is your life. I had a breakdown. Everything I knew was falling apart. I couldn't pretend anymore. And what was left, me at my most vulnerable? When I got out of my breakdown, I realized that this was my truth. I was given a second chance, and I needed to do it honestly this time. When I got to the hospital, a local organization asked me to speak at Dallas City Hall's annual Suicide Prevention Day conference. I was nervous at first. I didn't know any of these people. I had never spoken in public before, but I remembered the promise I made to myself, and I figured this is being honest in the most open, public way. I spoke from the heart, and people really loved it. After my talk, they came up to me telling me I had to continue. Parents who had lost their children to suicide saying they wished their children could have heard what I had to say. I just shared my darkest secret with a bunch of strangers, and I felt more empowered than ever. My illness wasn't silencing me anymore. I was the one telling my own story. But my parents told me that neither of them thought I would make it to my 16th birthday. And honestly, neither did I. In every version of my story, I died before I turned 16. But I'm gonna turn 21 this year, and I'm so amazed and proud of how far I've come. There are days when I feel like I can't go on, but I know that I can take it one day at a time. Because I'm here. I spoke my truth. And because I spoke my truth, I have received so much love and empathy from others and myself. And that's the reason I'm alive today.